I just thought I'd clear up a few points in the comments, and I spent a lot of time. I spent about 10 years or 15 years or so teaching in Russia in a number of universities and and privately as well. And I think I went around quite a lot of schools. I was I was mostly teaching students how to teach, and so I would conduct lessons after sending them off to schools to to teach in classrooms. So I sort of know Russia quite well. My ability to read Russian is significantly better than my ability to pronounce it. I get into such a mess with Russian pronunciation, always have, and today I was struggling over Domodiedovo airport, which I remember that there are a number of Moscow airports, and Domodiedovo was definitely one I didn't enjoy arriving at. I can't remember exactly now why, but it was one of those places where you suddenly find that you were arriving there late at night, and it was all a bit miserable. But somebody here says Matty Music says, I'm a relative newbie to Tim's channel, but I've heard a number of references to Smeg fridges. Can somebody possibly explain the story behind it? Well, the story behind it is about October 2023, when there were reports of Putin's death, and they were quite specific on Telegram or SVR, and so I have no idea whether Putin's alive or dead, but it seems to me that given the number of doppelgangers and the change in eye colour, there's every possibility that he is in fact dead and has been replaced. But it wouldn't make that much difference, because Putin, even while I was working in Moscow, it was quite clear that Putin had become a concept rather than an individual. And it was always a debate as to which faction in the Kremlin was in control of that concept. It seemed to change by the month. And certainly now the hawks are very much in control. So Putin is a little bit like Schrodinger's cat, and I imagine him in a Smeg fridge, partly because I've got a Smeg fridge, and I imagine you open the Smeg fridge and there is Mr. Putin stuffed inside. And at some point I did designs for mugs, which I would quite like to wheel out, but it seems almost impossible to get the process through the YouTube channel. And if somebody knows how to do that, all my mugs are stuck in the bureaucracy of YouTube, and I'm not sure whether to move forward or to move back. And I have asked various people for help, but you can't access YouTube itself. So yeah, and among other things, I spend a lot of time animating and drawing cartoons. So these mugs would be an opportunity to get out some of the political cartoons. I've got a very, very entertaining one of Mr. Putin sitting on the side of a Smeg fridge. I'll put it up, I think, as a thumbnail for this. But that's where the reference to Smeg fridges come, and I think, well, a Smeg fridge is a bit like the box in which Schrodinger's cat is kept in. While the Smeg fridge is closed, you have no idea whether Mr. Putin is alive or dead. And I think it's quite healthy. I think if one can mock Putin, one should. And it's certainly not a conspiracy theory, by the way. And it's extraordinary at the time how many newspapers reported the story about Putin's death or heart attack, and how quickly they pulled away from that. But it seems to me that maybe this was Putin playing sort of Cleopatra game to say, they'll appreciate me. We'll see how much they appreciate me if they think I'm dead, and then we'll learn how much they love me. But of course, it went wrong for Cleopatra, and I think it's gone wrong for Putin. But as I say, I don't think Putin is really in charge. Putin is a concept, and as such, he could go on for a long, long, long time, long after his death, even if he's still alive now. I remember meeting people who had Putin's puppies, which had been gifted to them. They were quite old dogs by that stage, I think. But it's and I have no intention of getting a Smeg sponsorship, by the way. It's it's a good thing to think about this. As for the Vladivostok attack, I entirely agree with Tony Dick. I don't normally agree with Tony Dick, but I agree in this instance with him that it would be very surprising if the explosions were caused by drones all the way from Ukraine. I think that's almost impossible to imagine. I think it's more likely that these explosions were caused by local sympathizers or by Russians who are able to launch their own drones in the area in concert or in alliance with Ukraine and in defiance of the Putin regime. I think the life in Russia is extremely repressive, but there is mounting opposition and mounting resistance to the Kremlin's special military operation, and we are seeing evidence of that again and again and again. And I think there are many active Ukrainian sympathizers in Russia. Anyway.